And fun fact, nobody's perfect, myself included. I left this, what I thought was a limiter bolt in this tensioner, and it's actually a service bolt, so dumbass me left that in, and I think the car made it about 1,000 miles, and it vibrated out and actually got sunk in here, pulled all the way around, and made the timing belt walk like 4 teeth. And so, you know, Mr. Brunner was in Oklahoma when this happened. He had it transported back to us. We verified what the problem was. There's the old belt. So we got really lucky. All we had to do was put a new belt on it and a new crank sprocket, which I keep in stock at this point, and retimed it, and it was doing fine. It had a little bit of a skip at idle. We weren't really super concerned about it at the time because it still was running so well, and wasn't giving us any, like, you know, full-blown misfires or any other indications. So we let it go, and then he brought it back at a later date for a vibration, which was actually his water pump. The water pump had been replaced before when we did the engine build, so he chose to reuse it. Well, it ended up having a bad bearing, and it vibrated and took out the radiator, took out the fan, it hit the shroud. And so, but he was also complaining about kind of a rough idle sometimes. And, you know, we re-lubricated the idle air control, that cleaned up some of it, but it still had a little bit of a skip. And so I went ahead and ran a compression check, and this whole side's low. It's like 90 to 100 pounds, where like this whole side's 135 or 140, whatever the spec is. So it appears that we have some contact with the intake valves. And so once I got them, I knew we were going to have to drop the motor down and fix it under warranty. So we got it down yesterday. I did a leak down test, and all of these intake valves are leaking. And then this one's actually leaking too, but that one checked good under the compression check. So I've got all new valves we're putting in. I'm getting ready to pull the heads off now and send them off to the machine shop. And, you know, like when we do an engine build, if we do everything in-house, we honor it 1 year, 12,000 mile warranty. And, you know, this is all under warranty because we screwed up. I screwed up. And so, while everybody likes to claim that they're the best of the best, everybody makes mistakes, myself included, but it's how you manage those mistakes and how you manage customer expectations that really sets you apart. And out of all of our competition, all of the other vendors that we compete with, you know, I believe we offer the best warranty. 1 year, 12,000, no questions asked, parts, labor. You know, I gave him credit towards his bill for transport fees because he had to pay out of pocket to have the vehicle transported out of Oklahoma. So I made sure he was whole on that. It's just good business. Take care of your clients, you know. Clients are more than just a number to us. They're not cash cows. We don't just, I mean, we rely on them for revenue, but that's not their primary purpose. The whole point of doing this is to form relationships and put more of these cars out on the street and keep them going. And so, you know, whenever you have an issue where you screwed up, that's where your integrity comes into play. And so, when we started this company, integrity was the foundational pillar. We all have worked for dealerships and have worked for other bosses that had no integrity or very little. And I said if I was going to start my own business, we weren't going to do business that way, because that's why the industry as a whole has such a negative connotation, because people are constantly getting ripped off by shady mechanics, shady service advisors, or people just don't know what the hell they're doing. And so, yeah, so if you have something built by us and we screw it up, 1 year, 12,000 mile warranty, no questions asked. So, prime example of that. So we're going to get working on pulling the heads. We're going to get Mr. Brunner taken care of, and the goal is to get this thing back up and running before Texas Z Fest, because that's the goal. He wants to take this to Texas Z Fest, and we really want to make that happen for him. Moral of the story, don't leave the bolt in the tensioner. Right, Caleb?
Yeah. Take that shit out.
Uh-huh. Oh, and we did inspect all the other ones we built, just to make sure that we didn't have, this was the only one, fortunately, so. Yeah, whenever you judge shops, don't judge them by, well, you can judge them by their success ratio, but really everybody should be judged by how they handle screw-ups and how they take care of their customers in situations like this. Alrighty, on Mr. Brunner's, we got the heads back. It ended up needing all 12 intake valves. So, lesson learned, pay attention to what you're doing, even if you're a master tech like me. Nobody's perfect, everybody makes mistakes. We tore this engine down to a short block, put all new valves in it, did all the machine work, and we're going to do all the reassembly, and we're covering 100% of the costs to the customer because it's on us. Yeah, so you can kind of see little contact marks on the pistons, and it was just enough to, I'm going to polish these down with some emery cloth really carefully. But they're forged pistons, so, you know, they can handle quote-unquote abuse. But even on this side didn't contact as bad. That side contacted worse. I think that was actually the side that jumped 4 teeth. I think the crank was off like 1 or 2. So, you know, it's amazing this thing still ran exceptionally well, and it really only had kind of just a slight stumble at idle. It wasn't really, you know, Caleb noticed it when we first retimed it, and, you know, initially I was like, well, it just runs too good for me to believe that it has valve damage, but, you know, we'll drive it around, let the customer take it. He said that the idle condition eventually got a little worse, especially once it warmed up, because it was still kind of cold outside when this happened. And so, yeah, sure enough, you know, once we did a compression test, the numbers don't lie. So that's where we're at on that. So I'm going to start working on reassembly, and we are working very, very hard to make sure that Mr. Brunner gets to Texas Z Fest. We set a hard deadline for end of the week. It's Wednesday. So I'm going to start powering through this and work to get it back in the car and all the fluids in, bled, started up and running. All right, we got the pistons all cleaned up, and I'd actually talked to him about doing some oil catch cans. This thing is just getting making higher boost, and the PCV system is being closed under boost. You know, the PCV valve's shut. The only way you're scavenging PCV fumes is through the pre-turbo inlet boots. Well, with increased boost, you're getting increased blow-by, and so without a catch can to filter that out, it's getting ingested right into the engine. I mean, this motor only has about 2,000 miles on it, and you saw the piston tops were all carboned over. The intake track was full of carbon, or you know, oil residue. The intake valves had already started carboning up, so we're gonna reassemble this and put a couple of catch cans in it before it leaves. But I'm ready to put the heads on, and on these, typically what I do is I will remove the turbo manifold on the driver's side because of the dipstick tube and pull the head by itself. And on the passenger side, I will remove the head with the turbo and manifold installed because you can't access all the bolts easily. Well, I got the cylinder heads on, I got passenger side turbo on. I'm getting ready to put the driver's side turbo setup on, and then we'll work on, I gotta reseal the front cam caps, put all the cam seals in, lower intake manifold, then I can time it and then do the valve covers and start getting this thing ready for reinstall back into the car. Well, I ended up working well into the evening buttoning this thing up, and I didn't make the conscious effort to film it. As we started getting pretty close to the hard deadline we set with Mr. Brunner, a lot of the times filming certain parts or whole parts of a build can substantially slow down productivity, and this is just one of those jobs that at a certain point, you know, I just needed to power through once I got enough momentum going. But anyways, I got the engine stuff back in, it's been heat cycled a few times, driven about 25 miles, triple checked for any fluid leaks or any other issues, and it's right on time for Mr. Brunner to take it to Texas Z Fest per the original plan. And just for good measure, I told him to bring it back by once he's back and let me check everything over one more time, but we got it all wrapped up for him. He's happy, we're happy, and he has a perfectly running car. Alright, we finally got Mr. Townsley's S30 World tank in for his 240. And one of the main reasons we were replacing is because this was damaged on his tank. He had had it previously replaced, and is it this one or that one? I don't remember which one. Okay, so they're loose, so it leaks.
Both of them. I already know.
Yeah, nice.
This one is also, it's not in the same direction.
Yeah. But it's full of rust, so that's the other reason we're replacing it. And if you buy one of these S30 World tanks, they do offer the little pads that go here separately for like 50 bucks, I think. What do you think about these tanks? Are they like really, really close to OE quality fit?
Yeah, they fit great.
Not a piece of junk. We've installed what, like 4 of these now?
4 of them, yeah.
Yeah.
Up there.
Cool.
This is the first 240.
Yeah.
But the other ones have been spot on.
Yeah, so this is S30 World tank number 4. And so I had talked to them about possibly reproducing an S130 tank, and they're open to it, so.
Pretty identical.
Yeah. Pretty damn close match. You got a flashlight shine on the inside of it?
Oh, it still has gas.
Oh yeah, it's definitely.
Oh yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Full of rust.
Yep. So once we already put a new filter in it, right? I think when you did the hoses.
Yes.
Yeah.
The filter is new.
All right. So there's the fitment on the 240Z S30 World tank. Just like all the other ones, fits like OE.
Yeah, it's good. Solid. Alright, so today we are upgrading the stock 240Z booster to a 280Z booster. Alright, so on the 240 booster, this pattern is narrower than the 280. The 280 is wider. This one is right at 3 1/4. The 280 is right at 4 inches from center to center. So you have to extend the holes outward just a little bit. Height is the exact same. It's just this is about 3/4 of an inch, maybe half an inch wider. I don't remember exactly. But yeah, just a little bit wider. Measure that difference from here to this point where the new one is, and that's going to be your hole that you have to drill in the cart. Once you do that, you can fit a 280Z booster in a 240Z. It is very tight, but it does not rub on the clutch master or the throttle linkage. Alright, and so now we have, it does move this hose to up top instead of down about right there. So you will have to change where the hose goes in. No big deal. But now we have a 280 booster on a 240.
Beau's over here testing the new brake setup on Mr. Townsley's.
I think it locks the rears up.
Oh, it's the rears?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah, it needs an adjustable proportioning valve.
Yeah. It feels like it's the rear. Like
Yeah.
I feel it like getting loose in the back.
Okay. I'll let him know. Caleb's doing the last minute spill coolant everywhere.
One last spill, you know.
Yeah.
One last rock. Fan.
I don't think we got a first start filmed on this because it was kind of like we were dealing with. We had what was this, regulator number 3 that was leaking in the same week?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the regulator was leaking, the injectors were leaking, we replaced all that.
And it wasn't just a leak. Like, oh yeah, you know, it's a little messed up. No, it was pissing like a stream of fuel out of the regulator.
Yeah, I don't know how. We should have all bought lottery tickets that week because, like I said, that I've seen more leak in that 1 week than the last 15 years.
I'm gonna buy a regulator for my car because I don't want that to happen.
Yeah, probably wouldn't be a bad idea. But he came in a while back for coilovers. We did Apex rear suspension arms. Attempted to teach NTB how to do alignments. That was a failure.
Big failure.
Yeah.
We got assumed at NTB too. Some random guy pulled up and looked at us in uniform. He's like, "Hey man," we're like, "Yeah, I don't work here." He's like, "Oh, you don't work here?" No, I don't fucking work.
He's like getting ready to fist fight us because we didn't work at NTB. Cool thing about Mike Nguyen's car is it's relatively stock looking. You know, it still has the big park bench bumpers on it. It's got a front plate. It's got louvers. Full interior, which is a rarity by today's standards. Most of the cars we work on have some missing trim panels, if not all of them. So, you know, from the outside, it just looks like a stock 280Z, but with the turbo engine under the hood, it's definitely significantly faster. I think the stock NA 280Z made like 80 or 90 wheel horsepower, where these from the turbo motors from the factory are rated at like 185 crank, so we'll call it 135, 140 wheel. You know, obviously this one with a standalone Mega Squirt may squeeze out a little bit more. There's a ton of potential just sitting here, but you know, with the factory J-pipe, the intake charge temp gets up there. So, you know, I talked to him about it, definitely converting to front mount intercooler later is going to greatly increase our ability to advance the timing and keep the combustion chamber cool and things like that. So we may do a round 2 with him for an intercooler install, or maybe he'll buy it and install it himself and then bring it back for a retune. Just to recap the complete build, over the course of its visits here at Godzilla, we've done BC coilovers, we did Apex engineered front and rear adjustable control arms, and then now we have an L28 ET swap. It was actually, I think, the first one that Beau rebuilt. Still has a factory 280Z 5-speed in it. When he bought the engine and everything off of us, it came with a spare 5-speed in it. It came with a 240SX 5-speed, so, you know, he may decide to upgrade at a later date. We'll just have to see. And then we capped it off with the 3-inch turbo back stainless steel exhaust. We fabricated our own downpipe all the way back to an Apex muffler in the rear. And then from here, it goes home to Mike Nguyen to enjoy it, drive it around and play with it, go to some car shows and car meets. Until the next mods.
Alright, cool. Now that we got that out of the way, we can take a look at the subject matter we have going on here. I am installing Speedhut gauges into Mr. Everson's 280Z. I have the 3 already in there, and then I have the 2 big ones right there. I got kind of fancy with the wiring. They give you these little breakout things. They're actually pretty convenient. So that sucks. Nice shot. But anyways, I got those all wired up because they all go through the dimmer here, which is apparently a new thing, the zero dimmer. Half of it goes to the vehicle. You can't see it, it's covered up, but this is, see, gauges right there, gauge side, car side. So then you hook up, there's a ground there, so ground, and then this is key on, orange is constant, and this is illumination when you hit the lights, and that will control everything. So I'm hoping that I can find all of those in there somewhere in this plug, or if I have to extend it to a different plug. I have the fuel gauge hooked up already. I got fancy and made some like little plug-ins right there. So I don't like modifying wiring harnesses for cars, especially a car that's this nice. Like, we had a different car come in here that had these connectors cut off, and they saved the pins and made the connectors work, and I was like, oh, that's cool, but these gauges are actually nice. I did it for here on the turn signal as well. You can see a better idea. don't look at this for the wiring because it may not be right. The turn signals are those 2 wires, but I don't know if left to right is the right way around. But I'm about to throw it in the car. This is the tachometer wire that's already out for the Holly. I'm about to throw it in the car and then find out where all my powers are, because I can't do that without the car plugged in. And then, yeah, car good. I guess I'll flip the dash over and I'll show you how they actually look from the front side. So here's the actual gauges. He went with the regular S30 livery stuff, so nothing super crazy. But so we got going on. He's got the dual gauges as well. Might be kind of hard to see. The gimbal's mad, but he's got dual gauges. Looks pretty good. Regular clock. Don't yell at me if it's not straight. I'm getting there. But dash about to go back in the car, and then I can keep doing the wiring. This car is also very nice. It's been really nice to work on one that nobody messed up. Some retard didn't come in here with a pair of cutters. And Beau, on the other hand, has not been so fortunate. He's been cussing on this car all day.
Well,
What are you doing, Beau?
trying to fix wiring that I didn't do.
He's trying to fix wiring that he didn't do. That's crazy. That's exactly what I just said that I didn't have to deal with today. I have the dash back in the car. Like I said, don't follow the wiring that I showed in that clip. It was wrong. The turn signals were on the wrong side, so they weren't really working. But Speedhuts are installed and functional. I went up in there, you probably won't be able to see, but up in there I have made my connections to the body harness, so that's cool. Didn't have to cut and tap into any wires. Everything works like it should. I need to calibrate the gas gauge more than likely because I don't think it has that much gas in it. But yeah. I also have to go through and hook up the oil pressure and coolant temp gauges, but functionally they do work. And Speedhut, like I showed you that little dimmer box thing, when you hit the light switch, they do dim. It's very minuscule on here, but you can see the volt gauge going up and down the middle. So that's cool. It's a lot easier than wiring up those little digitizer box thingies. The gimbal's not very happy about staying straight, but yeah, I'm happy with it. So now, probably tomorrow, I'll be running wires through the car and doing all that stuff. So, well, right here we have Everson's beginning to be Y pipe for the V8 swap car. I made this little merger, rather large merger. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but this is the hole that I have to cut out of this pipe. Pretty big. I wanted it to, you know, work. So that's kind of what I have going. Yeah, there's a gap there. Yeah, it's going to suck to weld. I don't know if I'm going to break these tacks off and try and weld this separately or not. It's probably a better idea, but we'll see. It's 8:30 in the morning on Monday, or not Monday, I'm retarded. Thursday. But I make a bunch of noise. Alright, so I think I have about 4 hours in this collector. So I made this, called it good enough, and I cut the hole. And now we have an actual merger. Something about like that. So, yeah, it hasn't been very fun to do this, but some of it's going to be really annoying to weld. There's a pretty decent gap on this side, so I'll probably be hammering and struggling and cussing, but one step closer.
So here's our dual to single Y-pipe exhaust transition on Everson's car. It already sounds a lot better with the exhaust merge, so. Were you gonna throw something at me?
Of course not.
Yeah,
I was gonna say I don't know how it's gonna scavenge, if it's gonna scavenge at all.
I just made it look right. So
It should.
Don't ask me how it works. It just fits.
Yeah, it'll work.
It ain't gonna be loud anymore, I'll tell you that.
Let's hear the heartbeat of America. I think that O2 sensor shit. Well, hell, it's not here yet. Yeah, it is. O2 sensor's here.
That's a big bitch.
It is.
It's a fruit fab instead of fruit fab.
Yeah. The pipes are significantly bigger too.
I like big pipes.
All right, well, I want to lift it up and we're going to do the sound test of the 1320 muffler.
It's a muffler.
You got to do the, let's get all tones. That is significantly quieter.
I'm yelling.
This is science. Yeah, it works.
See how long it is, like, in there.
See how long it is in there?
Yeah.
It's a little sus.
How it goes.
A couple of
You have
90s.
the mount for it? Factory mount gun?
We're not using that shit anyway.
Yeah.
You want to bring the ass down.
Gas tank.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Be a big boy. This looks good.
Pretty sure that's a diesel truck too, so. Right on the side of 18-wheeler? Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It's an Isuzu NPR fuel tank. That looks good. You happy with it?
It's alright.
Everything's just all right with Caleb. Cool.
Might still be warm.
He wants to talk so bad today, but like the phone keeps ringing off the hook. Like when we just got back, he's like, "Dude, I've been doing nothing but answering the phone the whole time we were gone."
Good.
Like, yeah, that's what I said. I was like, "That's what you're here for."
My buddy's Miata's gonna be here today.
He had told me about. All right, Caleb is working on hangers now. This thing was a lot bigger than we realized, so I hope he's happy with it. I'll send him pictures after we get everything mounted on the ground. It sounded pretty good earlier when he started it up. We got the exhaust finished. We've got about, I think, 25-30 miles on this break-in oil. No, we've got about 25-30 miles on the engine. We've already changed the oil twice just for our internal break-in procedure. Caleb is working on replacing the booster because it's an eyesore. There's nothing wrong with it, but the customer requested it because everything else looks so good under the hood now. But we got the cooling fans finished up. The bleeder system for the steam ports. Cold air intake setup.
Cold air.
Cold.
Cold air.
And we did the suck test on it. Everybody in the shop passed. He wanted us to stiffen the body a little bit, so we've got some Apex fender braces on the way. We've got some Techno Toy goodies for the rear suspension. Add some additional bracing. And then we test fit the strut bar and realized that even if we modified the brackets, it's going to hit the hood. So a few vlogs ago, we talked about, I told the customer if it became a problem, I would buy the proper intake since I was a dumbass and ordered the wrong one. So luckily we found a buyer locally. A friend of ours is actually buying this intake setup off of us to put on his 84 Maximo when he buys his V8. So I got the correct cathedral port intake on the way to lower the intake height so that hopefully this crossbar will fit and clear the intake. And it's about an inch off, more or less. And so the height of this is about approximately 3/8 of an inch, but the intake also curves up, so I'm hoping that it buys us enough clearance. So we'll see how that goes. We're going to do a baffled oil catch can, we're going to do a billet aluminum coolant tank, and we're getting towards the trailing end of stuff. Caleb's got some heat shields to build, cut down on heat under the hood. Then we got to get it aligned and have it tuned, and then we're in quality control mode before it finally goes home. So this is what we kind of do in-house for the transmission tunnels on these LS cars. We may eventually start selling these little plates too. So if you pair this plate with a, this shifter boot is for the TL70 swap that we do for the Datsuns, the 6-speed TL70 transmissions. So that's a factory Subaru FRS boot. And we just got to get a grommet for this, but the one thing I noticed, I've got short T-Rex arms, and the shifter's almost uncomfortable to use while driving. So I've got an S-curve shifter rod on the way for this car and Mr. Pena's car, just to give it a better feel. Alright, Everson's exhaust. Good. We're doing the final inspection on Mr. Johnson today. We've got a... Yeah, you can hear that ProtunerZ throttle body is still whistling. So we've got about 120, 130 miles on this engine, I think, right? Something like that?
Yeah,
I have to look at the odometer.
It's a little over 100.
Gotcha. So this one is pretty much ready to go home. He's looking to pick up tomorrow. So we tried chamfering the holes in that throttle body twice, and we got the whistle to go away at idle, but now it's like, we think about 1500 RPM, it's like the most pronounced.
Oh yeah, it's bad.
I still gotta adjust the cold idle before it leaves. Alright, kill it. Yeah, because it's still rich.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we chamfered the holes twice based off of what we saw on, I think it's Church of L series, and ProtunerZ actually suggested that directly, but we had already gotten to that point. So apparently this was affected by a recall where it was sucking air through the throttle shaft seal. So we replaced it and the pedestal, still there. So at this point, you know, we didn't provide this part, the customer did, so we're gonna lean on him to reach out to ProtunerZ and have them make it right, but you know, maybe we'll launch a subsequent update when the vehicle's here for its 500-mile checkup, but as of right now, it's leaving with that really annoying whistle, and in our opinion, just needs a different throttle body. This throttle body is 99.9% identical to an LS1 style throttle body. Will you grab that LS throttle body off the shelf? So, we sent Jackson to Summit Racing to pick it up yesterday, hoping that the bolt pattern was going to be the same. So pretty much everything on that throttle body, other than the ProtunerZ logo, is identical to the LS style throttle body that goes on like your fast intakes and all that. I mean, same idle air control port, same pedestal for the throttle position sensor, the vent tube, all that, but the bolt pattern is different. And that's the smallest one we could find, was 92 millimeter. So yeah, unfortunately, we can't even swap it with an off-the-shelf part because of the bolt pattern. So pretty much the only option is Mr. Johnson needs to reach out to ProtunerZ and see if they'll make it right. And you know, we're non-partial to this whole thing. We install a lot of these. This is the only one we've ever had that whistles. And we'll continue to install them, but yeah, we'll circle back on whether he got Mr. Johnson taken care of or not. Mr. Johnson's car is going home today. We finally finished the last, we do a paint marker inspection where everything that we touch gets verified, marked with a paint marker. We do one final once-over of the tune from cold start all the way to warm-up, so we got that done. Did a final road test. So and then I'm getting ready to do one final rinse, and then he's going to pick up this afternoon. Just to kind of recap some of the stuff with the you know, he supplied his ProtunerZ intake, and so, you know, typically when it comes to our builds, you know, anything that we supply, we cover for a 1 year, 12,000 mile warranty. And there are some exclusions. You know, we have warranty exclusions, like, you know, you can't tamper with it, you can't take it to another shop without consulting with us first, things like that. But you know, he supplied his own intake manifold, so, you know, it's unfortunate that, you know, ProtunerZ did send him a fixed kit for, I guess what they have is a recall with where the manufacturer didn't put the seal in correctly or something around the throttle shaft. So we did that, didn't fix it. One of the other things that we saw on Church of L series was somebody chamfered the inlet holes around the idle air control port on the underside and the PCV vent tube. So we tried chamfering those, and it quit whistling at idle, but it changed where it whistles in the RPM range. So we tried one more time, and it just changed where it comes in. And so, you know, it still whistles real bad. And so, you know, we don't really have a leg in this fight because we didn't provide the part. So this is, you know, this is just going to have to be one of those things between ProtunerZ and the customer. I'm confident that he'll get him taken care of. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't. So we're going to recap back once we hear back from Mr. Johnson on how that whole thing was handled. But, you know, in our opinion, it needs another throttle body. You shouldn't have to chamfer it to get it to not whistle. If it whistles, there's a problem. So, in our minds, really what needs to happen is he just needs another throttle body that doesn't have that issue. On the ProtunerZ intake on the factory EFI, so this was actually the first one we installed with factory style injectors and barb style rail. And one thing to note, we ran into this issue. I don't know if anybody else has, or maybe they haven't noticed it, but the bores are a lot deeper on this intake manifold flange because they're technically meant for EV6 or round O-ring style injectors that seal against the outer diameter of the bore. Where the factory injectors, it's a square cut O-ring, and it's actually meant to seal against the face of the intake flange, not the inner diameter of the bore. This intake manifold flange is designed for EV6 injectors or O-ring style, 14mm O-ring style, which seals against the inner diameter of the bore with a round cut O-ring. And the factory injectors are a square cut O-ring, which are designed to seal against the face of the intake manifold flange, not the inner diameter of the bore. So because these bores are deeper, what ended up happening is we had a vacuum leak at all 6 injectors, so we actually had to double stack square cut O-rings to get it to not leak. And we verified it with a smoke tester, and one way you can kind of cheat it sometimes is you can spray brake clean or carburetor cleaner over where you think there's going to be an intake leak. And if the engine smooths out or the RPMs change or whatever, if it does any kind of behavioral change, that's where you have a vacuum leak. And so we could not get the factory injectors to seal against the face of the flange with one O-ring on each injector. So we put 2 in, sealed that up. You know, I don't remember at this point if we could have possibly put round cut O-rings, but these are not designed to have captured O-rings. So, you know, they could slide off or whatever. It's just not right. So if you're installing these with factory injectors, you may want to keep an eye open for that. You may have to double stack an additional set of square cut O-rings. The other thing to note is we really tried to get the factory EFI working with this setup, and we had it running, but it was really, really lazy. It ran really, really lean. There's a couple of different ways you can cheat it. We tried raising the base fuel pressure to about 60-65 pounds, which on a naturally aspirated car, you can do that because you're not going to have boost increasing the fuel pressure. So it would stay effectively static at 60 psi. So, you know, all injector flow rates are measured at 43.5 psi. So as you increase pressure, flow rate increases. So we tried to cheat it like that. We tried adjusting the airflow meter out to enrichen it, and it just wasn't happening. And so, you know, at a certain point, it no longer becomes cost-effective to the customer because we can't, in good conscience, continue to charge him, especially by the hour, to adjust out something like this that really isn't going to be right at the end of the day, and he's not going to be happy with. So we put our plug-and-play Megasquirt kit in it. This is the drop-in kit it's actually our most popular Megasquirt kit to date. It comes with the LS2 multi-coil spark ignition package. Comes with the drop-in crank angle sensor, which actually we just recently started doing laser engraving on all of our billet pieces that we powder coat. So it looks a lot nicer, and it's the updated logo. And so once we put the Megasquirt on and we're able to tune it, it started running amazing. And I can actually, I'll show you on the fueling maps. So these are just example maps of when we were doing the base tune. These are not reflective of the final tune by any means, but here's an OEM setup here, factory intake manifold, factory engine, and then here's the map for a basically relatively same setup, you know, stock compression, stock cam, OE spec motor with a ProtunerZ intake, and you can see just how much additional fueling we had to put in. So, you know, I would say that's proof that this intake does allow the engine to ingest more air. Overall, this feels torquier with this intake setup. It definitely has a lot more mid-range. I'd say, you know, just butt dyno, the top end is definitely there too. I mean, it's not anything to write home about, but it is a really beautiful intake manifold. And so there's an argument to be made that it may give you a little bit of a horsepower increase. It may not necessarily give you a huge peak horsepower increase, but it definitely will improve the bottom end, you know, snap throttle response and the mid-range for sure. That is not debatable. It definitely improves. So if he can just work out the final details with the whistling throttle body, he'll be good to go. The other thing to note, if you're installing one of these, we fabricated a heat shield because these things heat soak real bad. They actually get hot enough to where the anodizing will fade. We've seen it across a few different setups that we've done. So if we ever, anytime we install one of these in-house, we automatically will build a heat shield for it just to cut down on the heat. So because he is running a header, what we did is we just welded studs to each runner and then built a custom shield out of sheet aluminum that we keep in stock, and then put textured black powder coat on it, and it's held up to the heat so far. We've got about almost 150 miles on this engine with this setup, running and driving, and it's been doing great. If you're wondering, should you do the ProtunerZ intake with factory EFI, I would say as a professional, no. It's a aftermarket part that's a performance-oriented part. It's meant for a performance-oriented vehicle. Can you do it? Yes. Should you? In my opinion, no. I think the right way to do it is to pair it with a tunable standalone ECU to really reap the benefits. I think the drawbacks far outweigh the benefits of using this with factory EFI. And from what I've been able to determine on Instagram, there are a few other people who have presumably gotten this running with the factory EFI system. I haven't personally driven them or spoken to those people. So I don't know how well or how poorly it does, but this has been our experience here at GRW, the first attempt to do this with factory EFI. I just won't even considered an option for any customers moving forward. There's just too much trouble involved. It's not right. It's not up to our standards that we like to uphold here. Because ultimately, for what you spend with us, we want you to be 100% happy with, you know, the way the car turns out. Not 90% happy, not 75% happy. We want you 100% happy. And so in order to do that, we have to do it right. And so again, you know, our opinion at GRW is the right way to do a ProtunerZ intake is to do some type of tunable aftermarket EFI system. So that pretty much wraps up Mr. Johnson's 280 build.
All right. It is. I can't.
You know, if you like double push it,
Huh?
Or triple press it.
Which button?
I think it's mode.
You lied to me. That's crazy.
One of them, if you triple press it, it flips the whole thing.
Ah. Yeah, you had the wrong button though. It's the.
you didn't know.
Anyways, it's my first time vlogging my face, so we'll see how it goes. You all haven't seen this car yet. Beau and I bought a car.
We bought a piece of shit
We bought a
on purpose.
steaming pile of shit on purpose. However, you might notice a couple of things. Red valve covers. There's a pop-off valve that's been blocked from popping off. So that means turbocharger. Beau and I paid $600 for this car.
Yeah.
Not each, the total. Like, we each paid $300 for this piece of shit. So today we're gonna try and make it run. We made it run the other day to confirm the engine works. So today we are going to actually make it run on real gasoline. Last time we were in here, we worked on it. The fuel tank was a bit open, if you could say that. So no gas cap, which means, you know, water can just go right in. That doesn't work, by the way. So if you want a hatch release cable off this car, sucks. Sorry. Yeah. So we're gonna try and make it run today off actual gasoline, not carb cleaner. So I have a power probe, spark plug cleaner. I made this tool to short the injectors basically and force them to pulse. I hope the injectors work because I don't feel like buying injectors. Got a jump box, and we have a fuel pump over here on the floor that we're going to put in the gas can, and then we're going to put the other end of the fuel pump to the rail, and then hook up the rail again to the gas can and make it drink out of the gas can. But yeah, that's what we're getting into on this fine, beautiful, hot Sunday.
5 lug for sale.
5 lug for sale. You want those wheels? Maybe for sale.
For pickup.
For pickup. Yeah.
No.
We are just about ready to try to start this car. So the fuel pump that we had, 1, it was a piece of shit. It actually didn't pump any fuel. 2, it was too big to fit in the gas can. So we got a coolant jug with an old customer's fuel pump in there that actually does pump fuel. I was gonna click the injectors and then I got lazy. So hopefully they work, we'll see. We have to bump the starter with the button because the ignition switch is a piece of shit and it loses spark when you crank. We have a power probe that we're gonna use to run the fuel pump.
It's not sketchy at all.
Anything else? Yeah. Anything else you can think of?
Garden hose.
Well, yeah, we have to run the garden hose through the radiator to help keep it running so it doesn't overheat because there is no radiator in the car. I wasn't fortunate enough to have one of those. Yeah. Clean the plugs.
Throw a battery in it.
When we started the car last, I pulled all the plugs out, sprayed fogging oil in the cylinders, and made sure it wasn't like dry on cranking, stuff like that. Did an oil change. We need to plug that.
Should we probably push the car out? Okay, just put the garden hose outside. Put it outside. Ready? Yep. That good? Sure. Are we ready? No. we got it running. Here's our setup. Garden hose, fuel. And it works. It's got a horrible...
Can you plug in that temp sensor right there?
Where?
Cylinder head temp sensor.
Where is it? Oh,
That
this
one
one?
that's undone. Yeah, can you plug that in?
You can see everybody is standing around being scientists instead of working.
We're not working today, it's a snow day.
Because there's an eclipse. Let me put my Donald Trump glasses on. Dude, apparently sunlight can damage cameras too.
Oh yeah.
I had no idea.
Oh yeah.
I was reading like all this stuff last night about how actually dangerous it is to like look at the sun and all that stuff even during eclipses. Yeah. Well, hopefully we get some cool shots.
Oh, it's gonna be
don't
super
see-
cool for that
yeah.
minute and a half that it's black.
Mm-hmm. Well, even after, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
so the sun will probably be like right on top of us by the time it's like full, you know?
Yeah. So we got like an hour till it's done.
Yeah, but it's
Or
going to
till it's
continue
ready.
getting more and more dark. Well, I don't know how this is going to look on camera, but it's, I think the sun is covered about 50%, and we got really lucky. We were supposed to get rain and a ton of cloud cover today. The sun is half covered right now, and so it kind of looks like, about 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon right now, even though it's noon, or it's about 12:50 possibly. So I'm sure eventually it's going to start getting darker and darker.
Yeah, it's not much right now.
Well, if Datsuns aren't illegal in 40 years when the next eclipse comes through or the world hasn't ended, maybe we'll do another attempt at shooting during an eclipse. So yeah, sorry if you tried calling today, which is Monday. Between these couple hours, we were out here doing this instead of work. You can actually see it kind of moving a little bit.
You got a filter on that thing?
Oh, I'm not filming the sun, I'm filming the cars, because we'll never get another opportunity like that. Alrighty, that about wraps it up for the April 2024 vlog. We're going to run a time-lapse of the eclipse to close this one out, but from everyone here at GRW, thank you all so much for watching our videos. We're so close to getting monetized on this platform. Please like our videos, comment, subscribe, and make sure you tell your friends about us. We'll see you next month.
That's the family card versus the public card.
Yeah.